My goal in life is to stay focused and stay steadfast on what I can do to be better as an African American woman. But what is it that I can do to leverage my position to help people that look like me? But the takeaway for me on Capitol Hill was that everybody had to hit the floor. People got emotional, but there are some people in our country, in our world, who hit the floor every single day, and they have no protection.
Yes. Cynthia, I see you nodding over there. You want to add some thoughts to that?
Sure. I began my journey, my Black history journey, or as my sister would say, talking about the Black thing. Actually asking myself, well, about maybe 35 years ago, why don't white people like Black people? And so that has been my journey. Race is my research area. And I just want us to understand, and I know we do, that white people are invested in white supremacy. What we saw January 6th was white on white crime to keep white supremacy in office. And that's what the Civil War was about. Our only Civil War was about. And the reason why Black people are still trying to get ahead after all the inventions, all the work, all the everything is because of white supremacy. So African people were brought here to be enslaved. That's it. Not because they were Black or African, but because they were money makers. So they were brought to the US, brought to the Americas, North, South America, throughout the Caribbean, to create wealth for white people. And once they did that, and Europe got wealthy, and the Americas got, white people in the Americas got wealthy, and then slavery only ended with 750,000 people dead, bloodshed. We Black people are not assimilable. James Lowen wrote in his book Sundown Towns, and James Lowen is white. And he said throughout all the histories and all the studying of different minority groups and who gets to assimilate, only African Americans are treated as a pariah. And that is due to race-based slavery, which, and then after race-based slavery, because so slavery is based on race, that's the inequality. You're not a slave because I could make you be a slave. You're a slave because you're Black. So that was the first lie that was told. And white people are better than Black people. That's the second lie that's told. So now we have to just keep that lie going. So that is really what I saw January 6th.
Dr. Robinson, it's interesting. I was doing some online work today and saw Asian Americans complaining that they recently are more the targets of racism and physical attacks because the guy in the White House kept tying the coronavirus to China. So is it safe to say that Donald Trump's a master at playing that?
He's a master of playing that, but white supremacy only likes whites. So they don't like, before Black people, before African Americans were segregated and run out, the Chinese were run out, and so what this really is about is group position, white people trying to stay on top at whatever cost. And so Donald Trump, who is incompetent, he was not even a good president, but what he was a white supremacist. And so white people who are invested in white supremacy knew they had a leader. And I guarantee you, the one thing about Asians, and since we're talking skin color, the lighter you are, the easier it is to assimilate. Right? And so race really comes down to a Black and white issue, again, because of slavery. Of course, Donald Trump calling it the China virus, of course that created horrible backlash. Of course it created all of that. And this is probably why a whole lot of folks united together to vote him out. This is what that was really about. Like, that's what really gives me hope. We voted true white, as Ta-Nehisi Coates said, Donald Trump was the first white president. We voted true white supremacy out of the office. And so, I can see Asians, Latinos, LGBTQ, other marginalized groups coming together to get him out of office.
At the top here, Dannette used the word focus. How can we focus on our Black future when there are obstacles like racism and white supremacy in our way? Can we still get that future we want? Anybody want to take a shot? Eric?
Yeah, I will chime in. I always relate things to history. Yes, we can get there, but understanding our past and understanding and from a standpoint of the mistakes that were made. So then that way going forward into the future, those same mistakes are not made and we don't continue to kind of get into a cycle where we take 5 steps forward, but then 10 steps back in the end result. As long as we continue to look at our past to promote our future, to move us forward to where we're not continuing to either inflict those things upon us or let those things be inflicted upon us. I wanted to add one thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I watched a PBS special a couple of weeks ago, and it was dealing with race. And at the end, they had this caption, and it said, "When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression." And that caught me so much out of the PBS special. I was going to write it down. I said, no, I'm going to take a picture of it. So I rewound it, and I took a picture of it, and I captured that because that's really what it boils down to. People are fighting for equality, and for some that have been privileged, it feels like oppression.
I think I saw that PBS special. Was that a quote from Dr. Henry Gates?
No, the author was unknown.
Unknown.
It was special though, but the author was
unknown. Right now, standing in the way for Black America is the COVID-19. Disturbing government report came out in the last 48 hours that the Black community is one of the most vulnerable communities to COVID-19, but they're not getting the resources. They're not getting vaccination sites set up in Black communities. I was happy to hear that South Omaha had a vaccination site set up this week, but I'm not hearing a lot about the Black community when it comes to dealing with COVID-19. Any thoughts?
That's because we remember all of those experiments. Yes, we remember that and that. Yeah, that other one too. We remember I just had a discussion with my son about that. So what I think is that what we have to do is outsmart white supremacy, but not at our own expense. Like, if you look at white supremacy as oppression, then don't try to assimilate with oppression and into oppression. Quit trying to move next door to oppression, and please stop thinking that oppression is going to stop being oppressive, because that's what it is. And that's how some folks, and really this country has a history of feeling about Black people. So we have to be our own advocate. I am heartened by, people getting the vaccination publicly. And I don't want our communities to be afraid to be healed or to be at least safe from COVID if the vaccines work. I say when it's my turn to get vaccinated, I'm going to get vaccinated because I've seen some other people who I trust get vaccinated. And so on the one hand, the history that was done to Black people is true history, real history, and it's not, something that we should ever forget. But that was done then is not necessarily what's being done today. We live in an information age. We have access to information in a way that we didn't used to have access to information. So we can be our own advocate in a way that we wasn't able to be years ago, decades ago.
Dr. Robinson, coming behind that, I was talking to my sister 2 nights ago in New York City, ground zero, and she informed me that my niece, who is an administrator at Mount Sinai Hospital, 31 years old, HR, isn't going to take the vaccination. And I said to my sister, Carla, I was born in 1954, okay? That's when the soft vaccine happened. Go check your arm if you don't believe vaccines work. We all got our vaccinations, okay? And yeah, I checked before I told her that. I looked and said, yeah, a couple of fatalities, maybe a year to the vaccine or some complications. But overall, my God, we've got to take this thing. We've got to get vaccinated.
Well,
Yeah.
the vaccination, I'm sorry, Michael.
Go ahead, Dannette. Go ahead.
Okay. You know, the vaccination is so important to us because many of us have comorbidities. And we many times don't understand our own health wellness. And one of the things that I think the pandemic is showing us is that for African Americans and people of color here in Nebraska, we really have to understand our health status and be able to take care of it. Many of us have more than one comorbidity. We have 2, we have 3. We have heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes. And because of that, that makes us vulnerable for the COVID-19. And so one, it's about understanding your health status. But the second big piece to that, and I think that's something that my team and I are working on, as well as with the local public health departments, is really looking at access. We recognize that in some communities, both in the urban areas, Lincoln, Omaha, we are working with Douglas County to make sure that as they are setting up sites, and they will be setting up more sites as we move into general population, that those sites are in communities where people could almost walk to get the services. Because we know for people of color, being able to take a bus across town, that's not going to work. People are not going to do it, and they're going to say, well, I guess I'm not going to take it. So we want to make sure that everybody has access to the vaccination. So here's what we're doing in the state of Nebraska. We have, number one, opened up a portal called vaccinate.ne.gov. That's for you to register online to get your vaccination. Along with that portal, with vaccination comes a scheduler. So we're going to also, when your prioritization group comes up, we're going to be able to get you in, get you scheduled, get you the first dose, so that within 21 days or 28 days, you can come back and get your second dose. The second thing that we've done is we've created a what we call COVID vaccine hotline. We recognize that many of our seniors, we recognize those persons who don't necessarily have English as the first language are going to need to talk to somebody. And so we've set up a hotline to be able to address those questions, as well as for those persons who are blind or deaf. We want to make sure that they have access to the vaccination as well. As you may know, right now we're in 1B. We are focusing on 65 plus and 75 plus. And as we begin to vaccinate all of those citizens, we'll be moving into our congregate care, which is 1C, up to and including May or June, we'll be moving hopefully into general population. And so we are working on a plan to make sure that we have enough vaccination sites. If there are sites that are already in the community, that we are utilizing those communities, not just for vaccination, but we want you to continue to get tested. So if you think you've been vulnerable, if you think you're around somebody where you've been exposed, we want to suggest that you still get tested. And if you have to, quarantine or isolate. So there's a lot going on here in Nebraska to make sure that we are reaching out to communities of color. I'm certainly doing it because as we talk about Black history, and I'll end with this, Michael, I feel that my role as an African-American woman is to leverage my position. And so by any means that I can make things happen, I try to do that. And so you will see more happening in African-American communities, Hispanic communities, those communities of color, that we're getting the word out about why the vaccination is so important.
Is it safe to say, Dannette, that Charles Drew is the premier health center in North Omaha?
Well, I think Charles Drew has a very good reputation for serving people in North Omaha. It is one of our FQHCs. They will be receiving some of the vaccinations. I know that they will probably be registering their patients there so that they can take the vaccination. That's one
I'm only
location.
asking. And this is only personal because I go to my doctor is there.
Well, they have the vaccination, and we've worked well with them. We have.
Well, I have an appointment next week, and someone said he may be able to give you your shot if they've got it. I said that'd be terrific. That'd be terrific.
What we're hearing, and I'll just say this and I'll be quiet. What we're hearing from the federal government is we're going to be seeing an increase in the number of dosages that are coming to Nebraska. So that's going to help us get people vaccinated quicker, sooner, and often.
You three are a great panel. Let me continue here. Fantastic. You're hitting on all the things.